The film begins with Suzette tying the knot with her boyfriend. While guests celebrate the wedding, Diggsy sits alone on the roadside, feeling heartbroken. Suzette was his closest friend, and he secretly had feelings for her. He loved her dearly but never found the strength to tell her how he truly felt. As he watches from afar, visibly upset, his friend Daphne approaches and sits beside him. She offers comforting words, reminding him that Suzette isn't the only woman out there and that his story isn't over. Later that night, Diggsy speaks into his phone, leaving heartfelt voicemails for Suzette, admitting his true feelings, but each time he hesitates and leaves them unsent. Seeking peace, Diggsy goes to drink in a local bar where a man named Mortimer walks up to him. Mortimer strikes up a conversation by offering Diggsy a drink, eventually sharing his own story. He tells Diggsy that he used to date a woman whom he loved deeply, but one day he discovered that she had a special talent for sleeping with his best friend. He came to know about this talent when one day he returned home early from the office. This devastating betrayal shattered his heart. He was very sad, but one day he encountered an old woman who gave him a magical key which completely changed his life. Mortimer now passes the key to Diggsy, wrapped in a note before leaving. As Diggsy reads the note, he discovers sets of laws written within, stating that the key leads to a parallel universe and can work with any sort of door. However, once someone steps through and the door closes, they can never return to their original world. Diggsy laughs at it, assuming it's some sort of joke, before walking back home and dozing off. Upon waking up in the morning, he casually puts the key on the table before heading to Suzette's wedding reception. There, he meets Suzette, who asks him if he wanted to tell her something, to which Diggsy nervously replies that he just needed her help to write his new book. After Diggsy returns home, he casually starts writing the pros and cons of traveling to a parallel universe on a piece of paper. Later, he heads to the library, where his gaze suddenly lands on a book called Parallel Universe, which reminds him of his magical key. He decides to use the key on the library door but gets interrupted by a woman entering. Even at the cafe, he delves deeper into the mechanisms of the parallel universe on his laptop. Back at home, while Diggsy is consumed by thoughts of the alternate reality, Daphne pays him an unexpected visit. She is really upset by him for not responding to her messages, but her mood suddenly shifts when she notices a paper listing the pros and cons of traveling to a parallel universe. Diggsy finds himself having to explain everything to Daphne, and though she suspects he might have lost his mind, she still encourages him to give it a try. But if it doesn't work, Daphne promises to set him up with that cute girl Amy, who has really big round eyes. Following Daphne's suggestion, Diggsy puts on some nice clothes, all set to open the door with the key. However, as soon as he opens the door, everything on the other side appears completely normal. Daphne playfully pushes him out and shuts the door behind him. When Diggsy knocks on it, a Karen opens it from the inside and tells him to bugger off before shutting the door. Confused, Diggsy puts the key back in the door and opens it again. To his surprise, he finds himself in a beautiful city. Realizing the key's powers are real, he becomes happy and enjoys himself in the beautiful city for a while before opening another door with the key and finding himself at Suzette's office. In this world, Diggsy is Suzette's husband, but soon he discovers that their relationship is strained and this is not what he is looking for. So, he uses the key again and finds himself in a restaurant where he again meets Suzette and Daphne. Suddenly, Diggsy's wife from this universe arrives with a child and places the infant in his arms. However, observing his strange behavior with the child, she takes him back. She also notices the absence of the wedding ring on his finger and thinks that Diggsy is messing around with her. However, Diggsy uses the key yet again and jumps to a new world, where he encounters a blue-haired Suzette who talks incessantly, prompting Diggsy to leave this world as well. He finds himself at the beach, where he spots Suzette getting tanned. She asks Diggsy to apply sunscreen on her back, which he happily does. However, after a while, the Diggsy from this world appears, prompting the current Diggsy to leave for yet another world. Diggsy continues his journey, leading from one universe to another in search of his true love. In some universes, he discovers a pregnant Suzette, while in others, he finds himself married to someone else. Finally, one day, he meets a seemingly perfect version of Suzette with whom he starts making out. However, in the midst of their intimate moment, Diggsy excuses himself to pee but accidentally opens the washroom door with the key, transporting himself to yet another world. Realizing his mistake, Diggsy is filled with anger and disappointment, berating himself for his careless action. Later, Diggsy heads to a laundry to drop off his clothes since he has been wearing the same outfit for several days. He then goes to a cafe where he attempts to steal food, but barista Gwen arrives just in time. She asks Diggsy if he wants the usual, and Diggsy, in an attempt to blend in, agrees. However, Gwen finds his behavior strange, as if he doesn't know her at all, prompting her to confess her observations. Just then, the Diggsy from this world appears, causing the current Diggsy to hide under the table. Once the other Diggsy leaves, Gwen approaches the current Diggsy and expresses her curiosity about his peculiar situation, wondering if he is a twin or a clone. Diggsy responds by saying it's a long story. Intrigued, Gwen expresses her interest in hearing the whole story and asks him to wait until her shift is over. Later that night, Diggsy narrates his entire journey to Gwen in a bar, recounting his encounters with various versions of Suzette and his futile search for a perfect Suzette. Gwen advises him that searching for Suzette in this manner is pointless because Suzette from different worlds would always be a stranger to him. She encourages him to move on and stop wasting his life in pursuit of an unattainable ideal. Gwen then extends an invitation to her house, offering him the opportunity to enjoy an 18-year-old bourbon whiskey together, which Diggsy accepts. They arrive at her home and start enjoying the whiskey together. Suddenly, Gwen decides to kiss Diggsy, and he enjoys it too. They quickly become comfortable with each other and engage in playful activities like playing strip karaoke and building a tower of snacks, eventually becoming intimate. The next morning, Diggsy bids farewell to this universe as well, and he finds himself sitting near a pool, lost in his thoughts. After a while, Daphne arrives and is taken aback to see Diggsy. Before Diggsy can explain himself, she excitedly jumps on him, and they both fall into the pool. Later, Diggsy discovers that he is Daphne's deceased husband in this world. He shares his extraordinary journey with her, recounting his adventures across parallel universes. Intrigued, Daphne asks him about the mechanics of the parallel universe, prompting Diggsy to explain it using the candies from a jar as an analogy. Diggsy asks her about the Suzette in this universe. Daphne reveals to him that the Suzette in this world is a complete bitch, which is why they never became friends. The next morning, Daphne realizes that Diggsy is all set to leave and tries to stop him by pointing out that there is no additional Diggsy in her world. However, Diggsy has already made up his mind to continue his quest. As Daphne gives him a goodbye hug, the door unexpectedly slams shut behind her, trapping her in the parallel world alongside Diggsy. However, Daphne tries to stay positive and takes a shower before putting on new clothes from the stranger's apartment. After that, they both step out of the house only to encounter Daphne's friend Penelope, who runs towards her and puts her tongue in Daphne's mouth. It becomes evident that in this world Daphne is a lesbian and romantically involved with Penelope. Diggsy and Daphne continue their journey across various universes, creating unforgettable memories along the way. One day, while sitting on the beach, Daphne curiously asks Diggsy what it was about Suzette that made him fall in love with her. Diggsy reminisces about their childhood when the three of them used to play hide and seek, and Suzette took Diggsy's hand and let him hide behind the bushes with her. They used to laugh and giggle in the bushes, and that moment sparked his love for her. He adds that although he never kissed the real Suzette, he had kissed one of her from a parallel universe. Later that night, Daphne asks Diggsy if all girls have soft lips or if it's only Penelope's lips that are soft. Diggsy responds that he is not an expert in this matter. In reality, Penelope's kiss had sparked Daphne's lesbian awakening. The next day, the duo continue their journey and step into a new world where a party is in full swing. Diggsy wants to leave the party, but Daphne convinces him to relax and enjoy it. Diggsy settles in a corner, drinking, and after a while, he approaches Daphne, only to find that Daphne has shared the entire story of their journey through parallel universes with the partygoers. When two guys present or ask Diggsy how the key works, he tries to play dumb. Just as he tries to open the door with the key, one of the partygoers named Franklin abruptly snatches it from his grasp and uses it to open the door. However, everything seems to be completely normal on the other side, so the other partygoer encourages him to try it again. As soon as he opens the door again, everyone is shocked to witness that the view outside the door has completely changed. However, Diggsy pushes Franklin out and shuts the door. When Franklin's friend asks him to bring him back, Diggsy opens the door again and leaves into another world with Daphne. In this universe, Suzette works as a bartender and has a very charming personality. As they engage in conversation, Suzette opens up and confesses that she had a crush on Diggsy during their college days. However, Daphne begins to flirt with Suzette, fueled by her newfound interests. Diggsy becomes upset by Daphne's advances towards Suzette and ends up getting into an argument with her. Later, the trio shares drinks together, and Daphne and Suzette get touchy with each other. Suzette extends an invitation for them to join her at her home, and they accept. However, Diggsy dozes off due to the effects of alcohol, and the two girls become intimate in the room. The next morning, Daphne nervously confesses to Diggsy about her intimate moment with Suzette the previous night. She tells him that it was magical and she never felt that good before, and now she decided to stay in this universe with Suzette. With a bittersweet farewell, Diggsy and Daphne share a final goodbye hug, and Diggsy continues his journey to another universe where he spends some time wandering on the beach contemplating his life before eventually making his way to Suzette's house. However, he finds Suzette lying on a hospital bed. Upon seeing Diggsy, Suzette asks him why he finally remembered her after so many years. Diggsy explains that he is not the Diggsy from her world but rather came from a parallel universe. Initially, Suzette thinks he is joking, but when she notices the missing tattoo from his hand, which the Diggsy in this world has, she starts to believe him. Diggsy shares his entire story of how he has been traveling through multiple universes in search of his perfect Suzette but hasn't found her yet. He tells her that she can be his perfect Suzette, but Suzette reveals to him that she is not going to be there for long as she is battling stage 3 cancer. She imparts her wisdom and tells him that no matter the Suzette he encounters, she will never truly be the one he seeks. She suggests him to accept the reality of his life and not to waste it. After their conversation, Diggsy gently kisses her forehead and bids goodbye to this universe as well. Despite countless ventures through various universes, Diggsy still doesn't find his ideal Suzette, which starts to diminish his motivation to find his dream girl. One day, as he leaves a coffee shop, he encounters Gwen again and follows her inside. Sensing Diggsy's intent, Gwen asks if they know each other. Diggsy tells her that she looks like someone he knows. Intrigued, Gwen asks him to explain in detail about the person he is referring to, and Diggsy shares his entire story with her, including the magic of the key. Impressed, Gwen takes Diggsy to her home where she casually changes her top in front of him. She offers him an 18-year-old whiskey, but Diggsy informs her that he has already had that whiskey with another version of her from a different world. He mentions that some people never change, regardless of the world they're in, which ignites a kiss between them. Finally, Diggsy decides to settle in this world with Gwen and begins searching for a job. Gwen offers him a job at her coffee shop, which he gladly accepts. That night, Gwen asks Diggsy what he plans to do with the key, to which Diggsy responds that he will throw it away, but Gwen suggests he not do that as they might need it in the future. The next day, Diggsy puts the key in a jar and heads to the library, where he notices a typewriter. The idea of writing a book about his journey strikes his mind, and he decides to write a book. One day, while working alone at the cash counter, he unexpectedly encounters Suzette, who has come to get coffee. She becomes happy to see Diggsy and tells him that she had prepared a whole speech for the moment they would meet, but now that he is standing in front of her, she finds herself being nervous. However, she suddenly notices that Diggsy's birthmark is missing and asks him about it, but Diggsy quickly changes the topic. Sensing Diggsy's strange behavior, Suzette invites him for a drink to talk comfortably, and Diggsy agrees. After finishing his shift, they meet in a bar, where Diggsy shares his entire journey with her. Suzette reveals that Diggsy in this world is already married to another girl. To their surprise, they discover that they share the same childhood memories of hiding in the bushes, which happens to be one of Diggsy's favorite memories. After Diggsy returns home, Gwen feels happy for him making new friends, but Diggsy doesn't tell her about meeting with Suzette. As they kiss, Gwen stops him to retrieve something special from the room. At that moment, Suzette knocks at the door and reveals to Diggsy that they were actually engaged in this world, but she called off the wedding at the very last moment, regretting that decision ever since. She asks Diggsy what he would do if she were his Suzette. Before Diggsy can respond, Suzette begins to kiss him, just as Gwen walks out of the room and witnesses it all. In her anger, she opens the door with the key and tells them to leave to a new world and start afresh. As Suzette is hungry for love, Suzette becomes enraged by Gwen's statement and pushes her out of the door before closing it. Diggsy is left devastated by losing Gwen and starts crying. Suzette apologizes, saying she doesn't know how the key works, but Diggsy, without a word, opens the door again and leaves to another world. He sits near a lake and lets out all his emotions in tears, after which he decides to throw away the key into a river and start afresh. He finds himself a job and rents a new home, which he decorates according to his taste. Gradually, he makes new friends and purchases a typewriter to write a book about his extraordinary journey. After months of writing, he finally finishes his book and gets it published. One day, while leaving a bookstore, he is taken aback to encounter a short-haired Gwen passing by him. There is hope in his eyes and a smile on his face.
If you enjoyed unraveling this story, subscribe and turn on notifications for more deep dives just like it. See you in the next one. Thanks for watching.